Do you suppose there is such a place, Toto? There must be. It's not a place you can get to by a boat or a train. It's far, far away. Behind the moon, beyond the rain.
You're a wizard, Harry.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
Way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Open the pod bay doors, Cal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. I love you, Margie. I love you, Norm.
Won't you take me with you?
Why, of course I will.
Hooray! We're off to see a wizard.
Oh, well, you're not starting out very well.
Oh, I'll try. Really, I will.
To Oz?
To Oz.
Welcome again, everybody, to a new episode of One Life's production roadmap to the hero's journey. Last week, we talked about meeting the mentor. This week, we're going to talk about the guardian at the gate. To tell you more about the guardian, Dr. Bill Janishak.
Frank, come on now. So this is actually an exciting step in the journey that we're taking. So, you know, we've had our call to adventure. We've refused the call. We've met that mentor that says, come on now, we can go and do this. And you start to go over, and this is the guardian of the gate is where you start to go from your ordinary world to the extraordinary world. But it's not a free pass. And so out of all these steps, I mean, all of them are important. But for those of you listening that have found yourself like having the same struggle over and over, and it could be like finding the right job, trying to get fit. We hear this probably like yo-yo dieting. You go to school, you're back to school or something, or you dabble in things and then it gets hard. And then you convince yourself that, you know, it's not the right time. I'm too busy now. There's a problem here. What happens during that time is there's a price to pay to get into the extraordinary world, to enter in. I brought up the example prior is, so I decided I wanted to be a chiropractor. Well, despite listening to Joe, there's actually requirements to actually go over and get into chiropractic school. You had to have, your degrees, and you had to have so many hours in these sciences and all this other stuff. Then you had to actually sit against a panel and be interviewed to get in. So there were tests to get in. The reason that this is important is for the ones that, I tried and tried. This is the first test. This is the first obstacle. So even though you've refused the call, the mentor said, well, I can do it. Well, let's just go. You've got to crash through that wall. You've got to have that momentum. Throughout the journey, we're going to talk about these little bits of courage where you have to take that extra step, that you have to go inside, and you might usually stop here, but you've got to just push a little bit more to get to the next step in the journey. And in the hero's journey, this is the first one. There's something guarding you. It can be, in some stories or legends, there's an actual troll at the gate or over the bridge, or like in my instance, it was a college step that you'd have to pass these courses to get into it. And some people, if you have a fitness thing, maybe it's you have to show up at 5 o'clock in the morning at the gym. There is an obstacle to you gaining access to the extraordinary world, and the extraordinary world is a different world. A good example of this is when Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, black and white in Kansas, she had to go through her ordeal. She had to get through the hurricane to get into the new world. There's a price to be paid in that. And some people, either you don't know or you're not willing to pay those little prices, going through the little sufferings. And this is why people fails, because they won't go through the small sufferings or difficulties or efforts that it takes to get to the next step. They fall back down. But the calling is so deep in them that, they'll try again, either, months or years or weeks or whatever later, but you find this reoccurring theme. If you recognize this in yourself, think about, what do I really need to do? I keep living this same process over and over again, that we have to go back over. What am I doing? So this is an important step that we have in the hero's journey, because it's the first thing. This is almost like, the universe saying, are you really serious? You've talked about it, you've read about it, you're excited about it, you've yammered, you've gotten even a mentor that'll talk to you, or a coach or something. But are you really serious about putting in the work? This is the sweat equity portion. So that is the guardian of the gate. And we have a couple great speakers that Joe, you come up and introduce. I'm sure we're going to see some definitely watch people come. I can't even talk today, that are overcome those obstacles to make it happen.
Thanks, Bill. I'm going to pull Frank up here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add our couple of guests already, just so I can pull them on the screen so they can, feel bad when I start talking all the great things about them. So, fantastic.
Welcome.
There they are.
There we are. Hey, we've got them. All right, let me go ahead and start introducing our special guest for today. So, Kate Troyer, also known as Feng Shui Kate, transformed from a design consultant to an intuitive home wellness practitioner, specializing in accessible, empowering Feng Shui methods. I'll get it right. Yes. After personally experience in its transformative power. So what does that mean? She figured it out. Now she shares with other people, right? Typical mentor program that we've experienced through this. So she's the creator of Homeslice Living. She simplifies and demystifies this ancient art. So if you get home and you don't feel happy, you know who you got to talk to. Okay. Also on screen is Robbie Cornelius, a venture capitalist who, via his company Web Asset Group, focuses on the acquisition, building, management, and sales of digital assets. Robbie is passionate about building internet-based businesses and educating companies on the importance of creating wealth on the internet. So, guys, we've got two powerhouses today that we need to learn their story, and we need to hear from them what they went through. So we flip the coin. There's no coin. Kate wins. So Kate will be going first. So let's change up the screen here, and then I'll say, Kate, switch with me, and we'll have Kate come on. So, Kate, please, can you give us an example of what you've been through or you're currently going through, whichever works best for you, on this journey that we call life?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of both. I have started my hero's journey multiple times, and I wanted to start out with that to kind of let everybody know off the rip that it's not always pretty, and you probably are going to have to restart many times before it sticks, or before you fully realize that you need to commit to yourself and allow your path to unfold. And I think it's important for me to start off with one of the times that I believe gave me the grit and that taught me that no one was going to save me other than myself. Like, I had to be the one to step into my life when it wasn't going the way I wanted it to, and be the one that saved myself. And I believe that this specific experience was the foundation that I needed once I got into the journey basically that I'm living now. So I had been living a few states away from where I grew up in rural Ohio, and I had moved back in with my parents at 21. And there was a lot of trauma in my household growing up, but I found myself back in that space again and back in that energy. And over that next year, I became so depressed that I gained 50 pounds. Every night I was staying up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning across the, kind of like my room was across from my parents' room. And I would literally just sit in my bedroom and smoke weed and cigarettes all night. I didn't care if that was okay, if it wasn't okay. And during the day, I would basically sit on the edge of my bed and think about what was the point of me even existing. I wasn't impacting anyone's life. No one seemed to care whether I was okay or what was going on with me. And I was kind of at this point where I was really ready to be just done with it. I was just kind of over it. Like, what was the point in me really existing? And, that went on every day for probably about 3 months. Like, it was just that same cycle over and over and over again, every single day. And I remember there was this one night, and I'm really not sure what was different. Like, there's nothing that I can remember happening. No one came to say anything to me. I just thought to myself, like, okay, if I'm not going to end my life, then I probably need to start living it in some way. And so I decided that the next day I was going to wake up, I was going to get a job again, and I was going to make a plan to move out of my parents' house for, again. And I was going to start living. And one day at a time, I basically chose to live my life instead of allow that deep and dark, depressive state that I had found myself in to, basically overcome me and take, where I was at in my life. So fast forward probably about 10 years later, I owned a very successful home staging and design consulting business. And it was something that I built with my own 2 hands. I was doing probably, over 200K in revenue in a very, very short period of time. I was really proud of that. I was really, really good at what I did. But I had a kind of a very synchronistic girls' trip to Florida kind of changed my entire path, like forever, which is why I'm here right now in front of you. And during this trip, we kind of set out for it being like more of a spiritual experience. We were waking up every morning at 5 a.m. doing like really deep Dr. Joe meditations, and just kind of really like sinking in. And I knew already that there was this calling inside me that it was like I was meant to do something deeper, like, but everyone around me thought like I had it made. I had this really successful business. I was doing something I was really good at. I had the accolades of doing something I was really good at. And like by everyone else's standards, I should have been very fulfilled, right? I shouldn't have wanted more. But I just kept finding myself being like, no, like there's more, there's more. And I came out of meditation one morning and I was literally like bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I feel so disconnected to source, to my higher self, to like the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. Like I didn't survive and go through and heal through all of these things, all of these traumas in my life to like just be like making houses look pretty. Like, yeah, that feels great, but like, I know I'm capable of so much more. And I was really like bothered by that. So on this trip, I had actually brought with me this Feng Shui manual that I had printed and binded years before. I don't remember ever really reading it, but I'm assuming at some point I did, because later that day I pulled this binder out and I opened it up and there was a sticky note in it that said, teach this. And I thought, oh, that's kind of strange, but, you know, maybe I looked through it. And at the time I was teaching like realtor workshops and things. And I thought, okay, well, you know, maybe I saw something in here and I wanted to apply it to that. But so I just kind of like brushed it off, thought it was a little weird, but was like, okay, whatever. And then later that day, my girlfriends and I went to this metaphysical store. My friend comes up to me, she goes, Kate, they have a whole entire section of books on Feng Shui. And I went over and I stood in front of all the books and I'm like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what book I need. I don't know what book I don't need. So I literally bought every single book that they had, like literally every single book. I walked out with a stack like this and was like, okay, Feng Shui. And later that day, I was laying by the pool. I grabbed one of the books and I was a couple chapters into, it's called The Western Guide to Feng Shui by Tara Catherine Collins. And not only did I resonate with Catherine's story or Tara's story, I was like immediately hooked on this practice. And I also realized like, holy cow, this is something I've actually been kind of intuitively practicing since I was a little girl. Like this is actually kind of what I use to make my traumatic upbringing seem normal once I shut my bedroom door and I was inside my space. And so I thought, okay, like I want to learn more about this. I want to like hear more from Tara. So I'm like, oh, she's got to be on YouTube. She wasn't on YouTube. Okay, let me Google her. She's got to have some sort of content. Like I want to hear her speak about this. And what I didn't find was more content, but what I did find was that she, in the 90s, had developed her own school and certification program for Feng Shui. And it ended with going to Sedona for 8 days and working in person with a practitioner. And which was, again, synchronistic because during that girls' trip, we were talking about planning a trip to Sedona in the fall, which was just happened to be, of course, when this would be taking place. And so within 2 days, I came home. I decided to liquidate all of my staging inventory, which took me over 3 months to do. I had a lot of stuff. And I wasn't taking on any new clients. I completely shut down the staging portion of my business. And I did absolutely nothing but immerse myself in the study and the practice of Feng Shui because I just knew I had to. And now, nearly 3 years later, I'm sitting before you sharing this story, and choosing a different path presented me with a lot of decisions and a lot of opportunities, I guess, that I never expected. During all of this, I ended a 5-year relationship because my partner literally sat me one day and said, hey, like, I don't really believe in you. I don't really believe in what you're doing. I think it's like cute that you want to do all of this and everything, but like, I think maybe you need to like go get a real job or do something real with your life, or go back to what, it's not too late to go back to staging. People still would hire you. And, he just didn't believe in this new path. And that just, I believed so much more in what I was supposed to be doing. And I also went through another really dark night of the soul, as my personal practice kind of opened up this foundation for healing, like healing all of this childhood trauma that was still plaguing me over 30 years later. And it's definitely like the last thing I kind of expected from my Feng Shui practice. I was like, okay, it makes sense to me that the energy in my home affects my energy and vice versa, and they're connected. Like that made sense. But I was never prepared for the fact that like my personal practice and that journey that I took would actually be the catalyst for me healing years and years and years of deep-seated trauma. Because one, it made me realize, like, I had this big moment where I realized that I hadn't been living in my body for the majority of my life. Like I lived up here, right? That was my safe space. And because I was able to learn Feng Shui and I put such a deep emphasis of it in my life, I wanted to walk my talk. I didn't want to just learn this and regurgitate it and say, oh yeah, I know all about this. I wanted to be the living embodiment of what I believed in. And so I took my journey very seriously and I implemented this very deeply into my everyday life. And it really provided this foundation and this safety, and it gave me the tools to reconnect back to myself through this mind, body, and home connection, which is what I'm so passionate about when I'm working with clients, and like why I think this is such, it's like home aesthetics mixed with like therapy. And for me, like that was just like, it's kind of become, I guess, like my secret sauce or whatever that I get to work with. And it's allowed me, like doing all of that work through my own practice on myself has really allowed me to hold space for my clients who need to do the same. Those are the clients that like I love to work with, like that have the deep-seated shit that need to like work through it, and they need to work through it in a different way. Like they've tried therapy, they've tried all of these different modalities, and it just hasn't quite connected with them. And, I also endured challenges I wasn't expecting, right? Like I thought, okay, I made another business really successful, really fast. I'll do it with this too. But I didn't think about the fact that like most people didn't know what the heck Feng Shui was. And they definitely didn't know like how it was going to help them and why they needed it in their lives. And now I have the pleasure of doing things like this. And I speak and work with clients like all over the country. But it took me going through my own journey with this practice to get there. And, it's like when you feel a calling deep in your bones, like seated in your soul, you commit to the journey because there's no other way to be. There's nothing else you can do. Like you're just taken by it. And choosing to feed your soul, I've found anyway, will always get you where you're supposed to be going. When destiny calls, there is literally like, I feel like there's nothing you can do to like avoid God's plan, right? Like it's there, it's presenting itself. And if you don't choose it, you usually find yourself on a side of life that is, pretty unfavorable. So I hope that this little teeny tiny part of my story inspires everybody to follow their own calling and to pursue the life, that your soul is really yearning to connect with.
That was powerful.
Yeah, Bill's muted, but I did have I had a question, Kate, in regards to, you said at 21, I think a lot of people can relate to being in a toxic environment and being caught in that loop that you mentioned in there. Like, and I don't think you said that there was something specific that turned it, but is it just an accumulation of just that feeling over and over that finally drives action? Or what was it for you specifically?
Yeah, I think that's what it had to have been, because like I said, I don't remember anything or anyone specifically coming to me and being like, hey, what the heck's going on with you? You need to do something. It was like I really realized one night, like, okay, if I don't do something about this, like, I'm not going to be here. And I knew, and I've known from the time I was young, that like there was something impactful that I was supposed to do, or there was, like I really, even though this was, taken out of me a lot throughout my life, I knew that there was something more that I wasn't experiencing. And I could either choose to like just give in to all of the darkness and just end my life, or I was literally going to have to just like pick myself up, right? And just do something about it. And so I thought, hey, let me try and do something about it. And if it doesn't work, I do always have this other thing to fall back on, being real. But if I try this and I pick myself back up, I put on my boots and I actually give this a shot and it goes somewhere, maybe we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What I was going to say before I realized that I was muted was exactly what you talked about. Is you have to follow that dream that you have, and then the universe opens the doors. Joseph Campbell, who created the hero's journey and the whole framework, he has a famous quote that says, follow your bliss. And again, it's the same teachings and learnings that we've had across culturally is what you've experienced. We see this all the time in all the speakers that we're going. It's the same story. We're following our bliss, and it sucks, and we're scared, and we don't know what to do. But when we finally decide, cutting off all other possibilities and run forward, it works out. So it was a great story, very impactful.
And to think, again, she made it seem very light.
Yeah.
Right. As she was talking about it. And I'm sitting there going, should I live today or should I go try something?
Yeah. I could buy, or I can do this.
You are really in a dark spot when you're sitting down and going through. And I believe so many of us have felt that. Yeah. And we've gotten to that point. And again, like she said, had she not chosen differently, we wouldn't know who she was.
And what is interesting, Joe,
about how many people have bad energy in their houses right now because she didn't go through that.
Yeah.
And come out the other side.
That's exactly it. But in One Life production, we do Mastering Your Dark Side. And this is one of the good things that can come out of when we go deep and we say, screw that. Where's our fear and where's our anger? And channeling that energy towards what we're supposed to be doing, we become unstoppable. And look what the impact and the transformation that Kate's made. It's a living example of how life is supposed to be led. Good job, Kate.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, there's a lot of power in the fact that she said, well, I could always go back to option A.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, when you're at that point, but at the same time, how freeing it must have been for her to take action.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're sitting there going, well, I could go do this now, but I could always give it a shot and go forward. And then that is my backup plan, so to speak. Not the most, long-term backup plan, but it was there. But that gave you the oomph. And then you channel that darkness pushing you forward. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us, because
you rock. Love it.
There's a lot of
love it. Thank you, Kate.
Relate.
That was powerful, Kate.
So now we're going to say, Robbie,
Follow that.
good luck
dude.
following that. So, but no, Robbie, share with us from your perspective, because it's your life, right? An example where you can come back and say, I ended up in a cave somewhere, not knowing where I was going, came out the other side, and is a better person, right? We are all, those of us on here are in a mastermind group together. And it's because of Robbie and his ability to draw the right people towards him. So it may not have always been that way. And so
definitely
Robbie,
not.
Throw out to you, please share with us.
I feel like, first of all, the story that Kate just told was like absolutely amazing. For those of you who don't know, like, Kate is my best friend in the whole world. Like, we've been through so much together and evolved together. So like, to hear that story and to hear her say that story to you guys is just like, it brought warmth to my heart. So it's all real.
And it didn't hurt to hear I'm not your best friend.
Yeah.
A little bit, but
I feel like in many ways I was, you talked about being in a cave. Like, I believe in many ways, like, I am a child of the cave. Even still today, I feel like I was born in a cave. To say that my life was dark is an understatement. And it's taken I reflected on it today. I never think about the podcast that I'm about to do. I just get on and do them. Today, I thought about this and what it meant to me, and what that really signifies in my life, because like, I feel like this is the podcast of podcasts that I've done. But to say that, I'm a child of the cave is a real statement. And it's taken a tremendous amount of strength to get here, and I never look back, but today I did. And I smiled, because from a very young age, I feel like I was cursed. I was an innocent kid, just living my life. And at the age of 7, it was almost taken from me. And it's the moment that I realized that you could be a good person or a bad person, and shit will happen to you. And for a very long time, I didn't understand what happened, why it happened. I thought God hated me, and then, not to mention, after I healed from those scars that were caused by a car accident, after I got out of the hospital and started to heal, I started realizing, like, oh my God, my household is crazy. I was 7 years old. You really don't start remembering things until you're around that age. So at the age of 7, I'm like, hold up, why are we running out of the house at 3 o'clock in the morning? And why are we running from that guy that was just loving on us a few days ago? My father. Why is he down chasing us with a gun, with a knife at 3 o'clock in the morning? Why are we staying in an abandoned house in the middle of the night? Why are we calling the police to come and rescue us? So it took me going through that several times to start understanding what was really going on. And, my life was filled with a lot of violence. I think I have PSTD from that. PTSD from that today. I feel like, because, all I saw was violence. All I saw was violence, darkness, and hatred. That was my life. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think anybody loved me. And I always felt like I was misunderstood. And so at the age of, I think, 9 years old, I saw the aftermath of my uncle getting murdered, at a house right across the street from where I was living. So I saw things like that growing up. And all that taught me was that, life was evil. Life was out to get you. I had that mentality for a very long time. And the moment when my life started to shift a little bit was when I got the call that my father died. He'd separated from my mother. He lived on his own, and they found him in his apartment on his birthday. And so that moment signified a lot for me, because I went through so many mixed emotions in that moment, because I'm like, on one hand, I don't have to live in fear of him anymore, because we really feared him. And on the other hand, he's gone, and my last words to him were not that pleasant. And so he died while we were on bad terms. I made a conscious decision after leaving the funeral that day. I made a conscious decision to be a gangbanger. I thought about my life. I thought about everything I'd been through up until that moment. And I said, you know, all the stuff these rappers are rapping about, I actually lived it. And I made a conscious choice to start running the streets. You know, although I grew up in a very toxic environment, I still understood right from wrong. But that was the opposite of what I had been living up until that moment, because up until that moment, I was living in fear. And the opposite of that was, instead of being the prey, I'm going to become the predator. That was my natural reaction. I was tired of being afraid. I was tired of being worried about what people thought about me. I was tired of being a victim. And so I said, I'm gonna stand up inside of myself, and I'm gonna be the one that people fear. And so that's what I did. I ran the streets from the age 16 till, I don't know, God, till I had my first kid. And I got a call from a police officer one night. They were investigating me and the people that I was running with. And he called me because at the time I was a rapper. I used to write my number on a CD back in the day when I would burn my CDs to put in the barbershops and the tattoo shops. Well, the police that was investigating me found my CD, and he wanted to use my music against me, but he ended up liking the music and called me on a Sunday morning. And he said, man, this is Detective Harold with the Valdosta Police Department. I'm listening to your music right now. I got this CD so we can investigate you further. We already got a couple people that you're running with. And he says, this is actually good, dude. I would hate for you to lose your gift and throw it away by going to prison. He said, because we watching you guys. And the crazy part is, we wasn't even that tough. We were good kids that were tired of being bullied, and we formed a gang. That was the extent of it. But I understood it came with some serious consequences. So the day I hung up with from the phone with him, I went a totally different path. I made a conscious decision to at least leave the streets. I've been in the streets long enough. I can continue to rap about it without being actually in the streets, because I know where this is going. And so that's what I did. I left the streets at the age of, I want to say 21 or 22. And I just wrote about it. I wrote about my harsh realities. I wrote about my thoughts of suicide, my dance with the devil every single day. I wrote about the fact that every single day I wanted to take my life. I wrote about it day in and day out. And then one day I was sitting at a party, and I was surrounded by all these people. I kind of built a name for myself, and surrounded by all these people. I'm riding in limos. They got the jewelry. I'm making a little money. We got a condo in Atlanta. And I just felt completely numb on the inside. Meanwhile, everybody in my city, they were going wild, because to them, I'd made it. I became whatever I said I was going to be. And I just felt numb. My last show was in Ogden, Utah. And I made a decision to take my own life when I got back home. And I shook my friend's hand, Jimmy. I still talk to him today. I shook his hand, and I said, man, I'll see you later. He didn't know that I was planning to do this. And it was in that moment when I was home alone in the darkness. I was face to face myself. I was forced to face myself, and I was forced to face my own demons. And staring at my own demons, which that voice was very loud, I heard the echo of a voice that I hadn't heard before. And this was the voice of reason. And this voice of reason was like, listen, you've been blaming everybody for your shortcomings. You've been blaming everybody for everything that has ever gone wrong in your life. And in many ways, you're justified for it. But you've been living like a victim. Life really isn't that bad, but your mind is making it bad. And so I'm arguing with this voice, like, there's something that happens. Anybody that's ever taken their own life, they don't just do it a lot of times. They have this battle with themselves. They're at war with themselves. So this other side starts coming out. I was already leaning on the dark side, and I guess the voice of the brighter side started to peek out a little bit. And I started just really having an internal dialogue with it, like fighting with it, like thinking about my kids will be better off without me. I'm worth nothing. I'm worthless. But this voice, the more it started to talk, the more it reminded me of a voice that I remembered. And it was the voice that I used to hear back before any of the crazy stuff happened. And it was this voice of innocence, this voice of reason, this voice of possibility. And it basically convinced me to just take control over my life. Hey, what if you started living as if you were the creator of your reality? What the hell are you talking about? God has everything planned out for me. So imagine this. Imagine your life sucks and you're conditioned to believe it's supposed to suck because it's already planned out for you. That's why I wanted to kill myself. But this other voice was trying to convince me of something differently. No, you have the pen. You get to write your story from this moment forward. And that was something that lit me up on the inside. And so that was enough to convince me not to take my own life that night. And maybe a day or so later, I came across The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And the moment I heard Bob Proctor speak, I broke out in chills because I felt like that was the next piece to the puzzle of the discussion I was having with myself a few days before. Like Bob Proctor was basically saying we create our reality. And I'm like, hold up. This is kind of like the voice I was hearing the other day. And I swear to you, I watched that Secret movie 300-400 times. Every day, all day, every day, all day, every day, all day. People come over, man, you got to watch this. They got tired of me talking about it. And so after the 300 or 400th time watching it, I'm like, I'm going to start putting this stuff into practice. And all I did every single day, I would wake up and I would just start off with gratitude. It's what Dr. Joe Vitale talked about. Just start off, even if you don't have nothing, start off with gratitude. And I did that. Started off with gratitude. And I just watched my thoughts every single day, got into meditation. And then in 30 days into it, I felt like a brand new person. I couldn't even explain. People that knew me was like, are you all right? You on drugs or something? I'm like, what do you mean? You acting a little different. And I said, I am different. What really started to catch my attention was that I realized that it wasn't just me. Most people are drowning in their own misery-based thoughts. And the reason why I knew that is because when I started to get happy, I came across people that act like it was something wrong with me being happy. And I'm like, I even had an uncle. Uncle is a pastor. I met my uncle for the first time. Maybe I was around 28. The first thing he said to me was, you seem a little bit too happy, nephew. Be careful, because that might be the devil. And I'm like, what? Mess with me a little bit. But anyway, my hero's journey started when I decided not to take my own life. That's when I believe it started. It started before then, but I consciously jumped behind the driver's seat when I said, okay, I'm not going to take my life today. Let's see what happens. Another thing is understanding that when you really listen to the call of your own soul, you're going to be misunderstood by well-meaning people. I had so many people trying to convince me to stay into the music, stay in the music. I said, no, I got to walk away from music because I'm regurgitating the same story over and over again. I'm recreating it every time I rap about it. And I said, I got to walk away from this. I got to walk away from it completely. I had nothing, zero, zip. I said, I'm going to figure this internet stuff out. I made a conscious choice. I'm going to figure this internet stuff out. Trial and error, first made a little bit of money. But as I look back now, I realized that everything propelled me started with a conscious decision. A conscious decision. Either you're going to do this or do that. And I think a lot of times we make our lives hard when we fail to make a conscious decision. We think we still kind of unconsciously believe that our life is kind of just scripted out for us already. And that's why we don't make these decisions. We freeze. Well, let me see what life has in store for me. But a lot of times I've learned is that when I just had the courage to say, okay, I'm choosing that. And I walk towards that, the universe says, okay, doors open, mister. Doors open. But I will tell you this. It has been a journey to get here. I've lost family. I've lost friends. I have lost sleep. I've lost money. I've lost all sense of what reality even means. When people tell me to be realistic, I say, what are you talking about? What realistic? So I've lost everything that I thought was reality. Everything that I thought was the foundation of my reality. I've lost that. But that's part of the sacrifice for me. Part of the sacrifice for me was to walk away from people, places, and things that no longer supported the new vision that I have dreamt for myself, that I've chosen for myself. And I'll tell you this, even after I've become quite successful over the years financially. But I'm here to tell you that even after it does not stop after you become financially successful. The challenges cloak themselves. They come in different disguises, different shapes and forms. Nobody feels empathy for a successful person. We enjoy watching successful people crash and burn. Nobody feels sympathy for you. At least when I was poor, I had people that felt sorry for me, right? But when you're successful, nobody really calls to check on you. Nobody calls to see if you're okay. And so, and I'm speaking from my personal experience. So you have to surround yourself around you have to be intentional about the people you surround yourself around. You have to surround yourself around individuals that have chosen to go on their own hero's journey, because only individuals like that are going to understand what it takes to get out of that cave. That's why Kate and I, Joe and Bill and so many of us have gravitated towards each other throughout the years, because when you really feel the burn of what it feels like to go from zero to a hero, you respect every single person that you come across that has taken that journey. And so I'm here to let everybody know that I wanted to go dark with you in the beginning to show you that, man, it truthfully, listen, and when I went dark, I was very light with that darkness. I've seen so much you wouldn't even imagine. But I'm telling you this because I want you to know it doesn't matter what you have gone through. It really doesn't. And the crazy part is the older you get, nobody cares anyway. So it doesn't matter what you've gone through. It doesn't matter what your gender is, what your skin color is. It doesn't matter where you were born. None of that really matters. All that matters is that you choose a reality and you go. Pick a reality and go. Pick a reality and don't look back. I think so many people waste so much time looking back. And I told my family today, I said, I'm speaking with Joe and Dr. Bill today. I said, I think the theme of my speech is going to be pick a reality and don't look back. You know, when you look back, when you look back, you spend so much time trying to figure out, why did this happen in my reality? Why did that happen in the past? Why did that relationship not work? And you rob yourself of the present moment, trying to figure out what went on 100 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. You know, it really doesn't matter. Pick a reality and go. Don't look back. And you have to be comfortable. And this is, I'll give you a prime example. I think I was in the sixth grade for the second time. I was running track, and I knew I could beat who they were calling the fastest kid. Sure enough, boom, gun goes off. We take off. We're running around. This is field day. We're running around the track. We come across the last curve, and I'm smoking them. But then it dawned on me that now I'm about to take this kid's space, and his whole identity is wrapped in being the fastest kid in school. I pretended as if I had a cramp in my leg, and I slowed down and I let him pass me. That is a metaphor for things that I've done my whole life up until the age of 27. What I would do is I knew I was smarter. I knew I was better. I knew I was brilliant. But because I didn't want to outshine the people that were close to me, I would look back and say, no, you know what? I'm not going to cross the finish line right now. You go. And I did that so much in my life till I ended up becoming a failure for a long time. You know, because when you look out for other people, whether you believe it or not, subconsciously, you're hoping that they look out for you in a similar fashion. But people don't care like that. They don't care like you do a lot of times, right? And so that was my metaphor of looking back. When I look back to see how far I was looking at leaving this kid, and you know, he crossed the line. I told you I could beat you, and I'm like, secretly, I'm like, I know, I let you win, dude. But I
do that a lot for my brother, Robbie. It's funny you brought that up.
Yeah, that was awesome. Two amazing guests today, and with amazing stories. And you know what? I was just going through. I'm like, wow, we were sitting here at the Guardian of the Gate, and we're not asking you to correlate with where we're at because we just want to hear everybody's story. But both of you guys sat here and you guys were contemplating, I mean, taking your own lives.
Right.
And that's amazing. You know, we get stuck up and because, it was hard. I didn't want to get up early to do this. I didn't want to stay late. I didn't want to learn this. And the things that we may look back on and saying, oh my God, did I really let that stop me? Here's two people that were, before you could decide, you got to go either go for it or die.
Right. That was the choice.
Yeah.
You know what, Bill? And I wake up like that every day. I wake up, it's a life or death for me. In business, in life, I just have to go to that place in my mind, like either do it or die.
Conquer or die.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
burn the boats.
Burn them. Burn the boats.
But making that decision to go through, because when I was talking about the description of the Guardian of the Gate, you're going, you've got to have that courage and just bust through. And it's your first challenge. And I know both of your stories because we're in the mastermind with Robbie Cornelius. web asset group. You'll see that in Hero's Journey Live. I'm doing your ad for you. So
I'm gonna clip
but
this. Make it an ad.
with the this is the first step. You guys have to decide, okay, I'm going to do this, and you start. But look at you now, both of you now, successful, happy, going like that. The hero's journey is about who you become, not what you do. And look who you guys have become. So the people watching this, and you know, I know everybody was enthralled with the story, said, what? They were going to what? This is crazy. This is how, when you have that calling, that thing inside of you, that gravitational pull to take you, and if you don't answer it, what happens to you? But it's about the transformation. I think it's about who God wants you to become, who he had made you to be, and we have to kind of get out of our own ways to unbecome. You know, you mentioned the innocence, Robbie.
Yeah.
You know, I went back to my innocence. If we would get away from people's thoughts and expectations and trying to live up to what grandma said and the internet person said and my people on social and my dog, like, who am I supposed to be for them? And then we just get to that point that we go like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And you guys had to wait to the point, both of you, I mean, Kate and Robbie, both, you had to say, I either have to live my life or die.
Yeah.
I'm living somebody else.
And we didn't plan that.
Yeah.
For the episode.
Yeah. No.
To go, hey, we're going to go dark today. We're going to go really dark.
Kate and Robbie.
Because that should have been the Cave show instead of the Guardian show. But if you stop and realize, and I want everybody to catch this, because they came on the thing, you immediately judge them as successful. You immediately judge them as, oh, look at that, they must have things really easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now you listen to the backstory that's happening prior to what you look at now. And I think that's one of the biggest issues and one of the biggest reasons Bill was pushing for the Hero's Journey event, was because we're so busy judging what people put out on social media. We're so busy looking at we look at the diamond and forget about the coal that was under all that pressure for so long. And we just see the diamond and go, must be nice to be a diamond.
Yeah.
That was a black reference that, Frank, if you can cut that out.
You know what one of my slogans is? One of my slogans is, if you're jealous of my success, then you also have to be jealous of my struggle too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't leave that out. Don't leave that part out, because that's the hardest part.
You know, we are always talking about the dark side. You know, when me and Joe aren't allowed to sit next to each other at events, because
we're actually in the same office, but not allowed to sit next to each other.
even at our own event, we can't do that.
Yeah,
Frank was keeping us away from each other. Thanks, Frank.
I'm in the same office too, but yeah, we're together. That's it.
But it's being that. And they would always say, "Oh, you guys are the funny guys. You guys are you guys are always joking around." And then if they sat in with a conversation with us, they'd go, "Wow, that's different." But it wasn't the joking and everything else that drives us. It's the dark side,
right?
The struggle. Why we have to. Like I said, it's like breathing. We have to live our purpose, or there's really no sense in living, because you're not really living.
Right.
So Joe's on mute.
You're on mute
anyway, but
I'm on mute anyway. So that was the censoring that Frank was doing.
Yeah.
Right. I try to put a mute on him at all times.
Or he kicks me out of the whole meeting. When you look at this, understand there's a power that the darkness brings. You choose to either channel it or succumb to it. And when you succumb to it, that's where that other option that we had was there, right? And then when you decide that I'm going to push forward, then that becomes fuel, and it becomes the energy propelling you forward, because you're no longer afraid. Or again, Maybe it's just like if you hold a bowling ball out with a straight arm, you're not going to hold it for very long. But if you were to tuck it in, this is a chiropractor conversation.
Yeah, boy.
If you
go.
tuck it in under your arm, you can carry it just about all day, because the leverage point and where you're actually holding that weight. So you stop and say to yourself, if I'm holding the weight of the darkness out here, then yeah, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to fall, and I'm going to choose the bad things because I can't keep it anymore. When you bring it in and hold it here with you, then it can help you to become unstoppable as you move forward. And I think that's where a lot of people miss that part.
And your life becomes your bitch because there's no other chance. Because like when Robbie was talking about you create your reality, it's the line that you draw. It's what Kate did, the same thing. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm either going to do it or die.
What Kate
Kate went over and you got people out of your life that would not jump on board. Get on, it was Tim Grover. Get on my level or get out of my way.
Yep.
And you keep going and you take that dark side and you go, I'm out of here. We're going. And you have that clarity, that purpose, that energy, and it's all over.
What Kate always talk about is what we say, either we create our reality or we don't. It's one or the other,
Yep.
Absolutely great. So thank you both for coming in. It was profound. And I know people out there right now, they're resonating. They're going, wow, I had no idea. And you never know who's watching, whose life you just changed with your story. So you go back over and the suffering and the things you've got was all for a reason. It's for your success, and we know people are watching you. So good job.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you for having us.
I think one is we could listen to you guys all day. Especially you guys really had the courage to go to the place that a lot of us go and to share your story. So I think that's amazing. But I think one of the things that you both said that resonates with me that'll carry over to the next episode is kind of the crabs in a bucket theory, is that as you guys tried to grow, as you guys tried to elevate out of your ordinary world, people tried to pull you back down. And so I think that's huge. And just knowing that for those people that are going to take that journey in the future, that you may have to not have people in your life anymore that are currently there because they can't see that other version of you that Robbie talked about in there. They can't see that different version of who you are. They can only see who you are at that moment. So again, I want to thank you guys in there. I want to say for anybody who wants more information on Kate or Robbie, go to heroesjourneylive.com. Look under guest speakers in there. You'll find their links and their bios in there. Amazing conversation today. Again, today was Guardian at the Gate, and to talk a little bit more about what they talked about. Next week, we will be going over test allies and enemies. Dun, dun, dun. I appreciate you guys. Thank you again.
Peace.
Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.